Welcome to the Soccer Podcast USA. This is Christina, Unkel, joined with the voice of the Women's Euros, Lori Lindsey, who is be-all, do-all with everyone, which is amazing. If you haven't heard her voice on the Women's Euros, you've been hiding under a rock, because for sure she's been bringing us some exciting moments. So we'll get to that here shortly, but right now I'm just going to be straightforward. Lori, we don't have a guest today. So
we're
going to crush your heart. Break your little heart. No. Our guest is an incredible goalkeeper, and texted me and said her kid had literally a poop issue and he can't make it. She can't make it because her wife is at a bachelorette party and she's stuck with the kid and has to pick up the other kid. So that is the beauty, I think, of life. Right. So she'll be back on. It'll be great. She's good people, but we were going to talk to her about obviously Berger and everything, but that's okay. So it's you.
We're going to talk to Jill Loyden.
Yay! You guessed it.
I'm glad. I was going to invite Jill too. So that's and it's just been a whirlwind. So love it. But a poop issue does sound like more of a concern than jumping on the podcast. So I get it.
Yeah, no, for sure. Jill is incredible. She will definitely join us. She's doing incredible stuff in the goalkeeper world of not just training, but honestly, has been one of my biggest advocates. Yeah. And one of my biggest advocates, right? Me searching for women coaches because they exist, right? I had a really cool combo. I don't think Denise would be upset with my head coach. And, when we hired staff, I told her, you have to interview women. I'm not saying you have to hire a female, but you have to interview women. And she said it actually opened her eyes because they realized how many people aren't given that opportunity, right? Because of just a number thing. And we found some really cool candidates. And anytime I've asked, Jill's been awesome in helping us identify individuals. So shout out to Jill. She'll join us here shortly. But in the meantime, we got to talk about life. I'm exhausted. How are you?
Listen,
I think more about you than me.
I am loving these Euros. I also start Copa tonight, so it's full on. Start doing some Copa stuff. So, but which I'm very excited about as well, as that tournament picks up steam and gets more coverage, and Fox and everybody who's been doing that tournament so far has been doing an excellent job. So now I'm sleeping in now that the Euros games are spread out more and more, because we just had the two semifinals and the finals. So yeah, but listen, still in Beverly Hills. A living life.
It's a struggle.
Yeah. Yep. No, but I would have loved to have Jill on because she's a great friend, and I would just like to hear her thoughts on goalkeepers. And Hannah Hampton's obviously shown as a young goalkeeper. Berger, who you just mentioned with her save. So just it does feel like the goalkeepers have been really one of the main talks of the Euros, and it's such a positive way. So.
Maybe we just record and then pop it in here. We just stitch it in. So
yeah, exactly.
Shout out to the producers. You do that.
How are you?
Out there, Copa. Good. I meant revenue summits for USL, so it's the first time the Super League is included with the USL Championship, not because we just didn't exist last year, so not because of any reason, we just literally, so it's just tickets, corporate partnerships, all of the things that make the beautiful game go, that we can actually pay players and put on events and all of that stuff. So it's fascinating. It's fascinating for me because I know many of these individuals and or their club entities just through that refereeing light. So it's kind of funny to be on this side of it and being I still feel like an imposter on the back end. It's really, really weird, especially since we won a championship. I still feel like an imposter being in club administration. So one of these days they'll figure it out. But
has preseason started back up for you? When did you say that was starting?
Bro, preseason started back up.
Wow, that was such a quick turnaround for you. I swear you just won the championship.
We did 5 weeks ago.
I can't believe it's been 5 weeks, but still. That's
5 weeks ago.
I guess I've been here for 3, so that does make sense. That's not a ton of time for those players. How are they feeling?
Good. We were pretty deliberate and intentional about it. We just, right, the schedule was set the whole time, right? We knew the date. We knew that, we had pre-planned saying if they're going to play till the last game, then we really didn't put a lot of restrictions on them. We kind of just said completely detach, degress. It's a long season. I mean, It's 5 weeks. You're not going to get that much out of shape, right? Like you need to. It's going to turn into, you know how it is. You get back and it's the same cycle again, waking up, training, da-da-da. It turns into like the same every day. So at least for our players, we didn't put any kind of restrictions on them, any kind of, programming or anything. We just said, go have a mental break, come back. Anticipate you to be about 70% back to game shape, and we'll whip you back in until games kick off. So, and it's also like a physical protection, right? Like our strength coach is really good about it, right? Ensuring the physical loading and load bearing and entering, and we pushed it was interesting though, because it caused me to push a bunch of games back if we're going to scrimmage at all, really, before this season kicks off, because the season kicks off on like August 20th already, so in like about a month. So,
I was going to ask you when that first game was.
Yep, August 20th kicks off for the league again. Sporting Jacks is the expansion team, so here with their group of people, good people, so they'll kick off with a new Gainbridge entitlement partner. But not a lot of time, and I know NWSL is getting back, so they're all playing their 2 games that they got to play before they head back into the season. Those will be fun to see. I think I like what Kansas is doing with their little wraparound tournament, the Teal Cup. But just getting in some of those things. Unfortunately, like in Florida, like we only have one NWSL team and 3 Super League teams. So, like, I don't want to play a Super League team just because I'm going to play them 4 times in the season. So,
right.
Haley can only play so many of us so many times. So, next time we'll try to get the I-4 Derby. That's the interstate between Tampa and Orlando. It always was a Rowdies, Orlando City thing. That would be cool if we can reignite that. So, Haley, shout out to you. Let's get that going because the fans want it. Give the people what they want is an I-4 Derby. That'd be fun. But no, but that's it.
What else has been going on?
Fun stuff.
Have you been able to watch much of the Euros or AFCON or Copa? What have you been able to watch? I know you've been on the go.
Yeah, not as much as I want to. No, I mean, I have to be grateful to the Euros for having little snippets and being able to capture that, right? I kind of know instantly when things are happening. AFCON, honestly, just I have to dig for it. I have to dig really hard. I have to go into like Clip Pro. I have to go grab stuff, and obviously there I'm looking for player identifications and such. And just unfortunately, like down in CONMEBOL, like I'm following their social media on Instagram, so I'll get a snippet here or two, but it's not really telling me the game either. So we still got a long way to go. I know you got thoughts on that. And sorry, I'm in Chicago, so you'll hear an ambulance every 2 seconds. I think it's actually worse than New York City. But I'm not in Beverly Hills, so I don't know. Yeah. So at least from my side coming in, Euros seems flawless. Seems where women's international football should be. And then I think everything else is taking a significant backseat. Lots of work to do. But what's your thoughts? I know you're covering one, but I know a lot of that hits you still.
Yeah, it's just like it's kind of what you heard me say when I was on Attacking Third, which is it's boring news, and these players shouldn't be having to do this work where it's like a mental, emotional labor to, speak out about the resources or lack thereof, and just like what the environment looks like while they're trying to win a tournament. And so, it's continues to be just disheartening and also just infuriating all at the same time. Mm-hmm. So it did sound like they came back out, a lot of the Brazilian players who spoke, Marta, Caroline. And I was curious, this is what I said too, because I'd seen Marta's comments, and then right before we actually went on to film that segment, I was thinking, okay, here these Brazilian players are going to be watching these Euros and being like, okay, well, look at the stadiums. They're packed, they're selling out, the biggest crowds, their fans are walking. The backdrops are obviously beautiful in Switzerland. And then Caroline came out for Brazil and said that she's been watching the Euros, and it's like, wait, what's happening here? This is a completely different situation that they're involved in. So she's like, just continue to feel for the players. It is. And this is what I said to Sandra and Christina Kupo, who we had on before. I was like, it's boring too. Enough is enough is really how it feels. So Yeah, but it did sound like they've come back out and said there has been some changes since they spoke out, but it's just like enough is enough, and like we shouldn't be having to speak out about this, just to get the smallest little things sorted.
Yeah, I think for me the biggest things are the things that like we're advocating. All right, and I was just at the WNBA All-Star. My friend turned 50, so that was one of her birthday parties. So those are my peoples, yeah. Right? So that was cool to be at, and right, they were in the shirt that pay us, our worth, like, and yep. It's so crazy for us here, specifically in the United States, where it's like we have such different extremes of where different women in sport, industries, contexts are arguing and advocating in such different positions. So it's like we're like, hey, we need, more in the value of the player that you're doing, and then like how do you get about that now too, because you got millions of dollars that were invested that, people lost in starting up leagues, and now there's advocating for it. But then you got just the basic necessities, and I think that's what gets me is like I'm fine with the higher level argument of, hey, pay us what we're worth, right? And then while wearing the shirts, because there's a higher level economic conversation about, right, the difference between royalties versus this versus that versus NIL, et cetera. Where here we're just talking about human rights, like human dignity is probably a better way to say yep. it. Mm-hmm. Where it's like no one is ever, and especially in CONMEBOL, like they're never going to treat their men's team without a training pitch to practice on, right? They're never going to provide, like, I know you and I were texting briefly, but it's like, it just reminded me of the NCAA, right? And that comparison during the bubble of the men and the women's of just the basic stuff that would provided. It's like, the work persists. So yeah, that definitely needs to go on.
It's a good point. It's like everyone, there's still these fights, but they're in different levels. But it's also the same, it is still the same. The core umbrella of fight.
Yeah, the core purposes. And so I'm hoping that with that compare and contrast with the Euros, with Copa, with AFCON, I know there's a lot of investment by FIFA that are going into these federations. So it's like, who is keeping them accountable to ensuring that those monies and those finances and the application of it are being used in actually receiving the end product, the user, the person it's intended for. And, if there's not a structure in place, then get a structure in place, such as an individual or two that can keep them accountable. And at the end of the day, if there is, then where's that accountability report? And that's where I think a lot of that conversation, like the players can only do so much with their platform, and to advocate for it, then you have to have a voice internally that for some reason isn't going to get retaliation, or being canceled out internally, and when you're moving the needle at those tables and saying, okay, where's our accountability report for this, right? Where's our this, yep. Where's our that? I think that is actually probably that piece that moves it, and that's the piece that's not sexy and doesn't get talked about. So I'm gonna have to go off and do some research with all the time that I have to figure out, is there already an accountability report to ensure that, equity versus equality and all of those things get hit. But we'll see. But like it was kind of bringing it. I know it's not soccer, but the WNBA All-Star, that was cool. That was cool.
No, it's all connected. Yeah, no, I love that.
It was like the first time I've gone to an event as like a pure fan. We couldn't. My friend Claire is like, her job in the sports commission for Tampa is to bring in like major economic impact. So NFL, the Super Bowl, right? NCAA Women's Final Four. As I sat on her advisory committee for that. So we went as pure fans this time. No guests of anyone. No activating the space. We couldn't get into Together X's event with Dawn Stanley. We had to wait in line. We were like wrapped around, and I was like, see, no one watches women's sports, because I couldn't even get into it. Like they ended up closing up. Couldn't get into Unrivaled. There was so many fans that were waiting out of there. They had an Unrivaled activation space, which was ridiculously cool. The WNBA live event in the convention center there in Indianapolis, like it needs a bigger blueprint. Like there's so many people there, it needs a bigger blueprint. So it's just jarring. It's very cool, but jarring at the same time. Back to that whole kind of that pace and space.
Yeah. That's cool.
If you don't mind me asking,
what? Oh yeah. Hold on. Yeah, real quick. Why are you in Chicago?
This is where USL, they have their club revenue summit. So the league puts on kind of like a convention space to like talk about like getting all the clubs and speakers about how do you start a club, how do you maintain a club, and best practices. So it's a good space. Just because, as in case people didn't know, the USL is a franchise model instead of league owned. So you buy a space in a place and then you got to build it. It's a business. So figure that space out.
Yep.
But
Nice.
I know that's why I'm in Chicago. But Indianapolis was pretty cool to get
That's
into.
my
I was going to
hometown,
ask you.
so I know exactly where you were.
Hey, love
Yeah,
it. Why
Indianapolis.
didn't I know that?
Indianapolis,
Philly
yeah.
girl,
I
I
mean,
didn't
well,
know.
I haven't lived in Indianapolis for more than half my life now, because once I left for college at UVA, I haven't lived back in Indianapolis. But yeah, that's
Oh.
so like my mom's had half season tickets even when the Fever first came into the WNBA, so they've been like longtime supporters, even though they live outside Boston now. Um, yeah, so we're huge fans. Love what is happening there.
That's cool. I love how it's
Yeah.
changed because a client of mine has tickets, and that's how we got tickets to it. And he had tickets to the Pacers, right? And then just picked up the
Yeah.
Fever when they came into town for the
Reggie
first time.
Miller,
And he fell
baby.
onto them.
Oh, baby, three-pointers.
I did see some really cool, like they did some good stuff and Reggie was still
Yeah.
painted out within the city and stuff like that, which is
Yeah,
classic.
and obviously we lost in the
But
finals this year, but good run for them.
Yeah, it was a great
Yeah.
run for them. I forgot the name of the basketball player who ended up tearing his Achilles or something like that during the run.
Yeah.
He was present for the All-Star game, and the whole crowd just got up and cheered when he was on the Jumbotron and stuff like that. It was really cool
love
to
it.
see. Yeah, it was a little bit nod
Wait.
back, so I like it when game recognizes game.
Yeah, what were you gonna ask? Sorry, I kept cutting you off.
Oh, no, you're fine. I was going to actually say it's just like, I like, well, this isn't the question I was going to ask you, but I was just going to finish up that statement real quick. A client of mine having those tickets, he had kept those tickets, got the Fever tickets, just added them on, and then he started going to watch because he never watched women's basketball, and then he started to, and then he became a big fan of it, and now he's even more happy because if he can't make it, his tickets sell for a lot of money. So he's like, women's sports is making me money. So I love it that the layperson is like hitting that. But no, I was going to ask you, like, I was there at the game, wasn't prepared for them to be wearing a shirt like that, right? Commissioner's there, big eyes are there, the whole thing. But it reminded me a lot of the U.S. women's national team. Like, how scary was that and is that for you guys and for players to, like, take such a public stance with something like that? Like, it really felt like U.S. women's national team equal pay, equal play, stances you guys took.
Yeah, I think if individually, that's when it feels most scary, but that's the power of team, that's the power of community, and why you do it together. So it feels so much less scary when you're operating as a team and as a group of people that are unified for the same cause and speak the same language. So, and have a vision for what and how they see the world being. So it feels a lot less scary because you have all these people that you care about and the sport, women's sport in general, that you care about. So that's always felt like with the U.S. women's national team, and that was generally, and I've said this a number of times, and so has anybody that's played with the national team. It was always about leaving the sport, leaving that team in a better place once you left, and that was carried on from before I knew that before I even stepped foot in a jersey or on the field as a senior women's national team player. So even with the youth teams, that was a message that was passed down. You leave the sport a better place. We are going to speak out. We're going to do these things for one another. And so that's the easiest way to put it. Is it feels a lot less scary compared to if you were trying to do that on your own or out on your own, because there's real power in numbers. And so I would say that's, I'm sure. And also when you're really, really grounded in what you believe in, it feels a lot less scary in that regard too.
It felt empowering, like, right? You got
100%.
the fan side of it.
Sorry, I'm
but-
going from that, like what that feels like. But yes, it is very much like you are like, here we go. We can do anything. We can get anything done.
Is there like I don't even know if I can ask this, but like retaliation, or I mean, there's always the fear of retaliation, but is there like blackballing sequences that like leagues can do, or how it can be done to kind of help try to eliminate your guys' activities like that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about, I'm always sure there is, because that's where the fear comes from, right? If there was no fear of retaliation, then one, we wouldn't be in these situations, and then two, it wouldn't be like such an empowering situation, right? Because these things would be getting done way more easily or never be becoming an issue. So Yes, I'm sure. I don't know what that looks like specifically for the WNBA, which we're talking about, but um, all in all, that is where the empowerment, that's where the less scary or less fearful comes in, right? Because the more numbers you have, the more you're there for the very first time, and you know how it impacted you, not being involved in women's basketball, but being involved in women's soccer. It still impacted you in a certain way, and now what I would imagine is you're taking that back to your league, to your team, and being like, okay, I want to make sure that we're providing the best situation for these players. I felt empowered for these players to speak out when I was watching at an All-Star game, and that is the hope, is that it's like becomes, and people are thinking about things in a different way. But that is the point, right? It's one for change, but then also to change the way people are thinking about things, or get them to think about what is happening.
It's so being around and being present in U.S. soccer as the FIFA referee, like I could see it and I could witness it. Didn't have any say in it, it didn't have any impact. I just felt the ecosystem, right? Feeling it with the WNBA is interesting, seeing it around the world. But like where I feel like I connect the most with is like the AFCON and the CONMEBOL teams. Because as a referee, we have no voice, we have no platform, we have no vote, we have nothing. So like when I advocated for things, I did get retaliated against, right? Like when I and by retaliation is like, oh, all of a sudden you don't get assigned games. Like, oh, all of a sudden like it's like, oh, we didn't retaliate against you, we just didn't select you for these things that you're like, but you normally do. So it's like, I don't know, I think I come from the perspective of these players where it's just like my voice goes into the darkness, like I'm just yelling in the woods and no one's listening. So I don't know. I think for me, it's kind of going to be, I think that's where I like really connect with the AFCON and CONMEBOL, because I'm like, what can they do? Because their platform isn't a platform like everybody else's, but they feel like it should be, and it should be, but it's not. So it's like, okay, how do you find those things that change it? And honestly, that was one of the reasons I went to TV, was to educate, but also because I was just like, what are you going to do to me now? Right? Like I'm going to go find ways and spaces and places to protect my community that didn't have a voice and didn't have a platform for it. So I know, sorry, like took us like all like down a whole thing of this, but I don't know, it's crazy where it feels
conversation. Heavy. Yeah, such an important conversation. We're seeing vastly, I mean, you made a really pertinent point about, just the different levels of fights, what that looks like at the WNBA, what that looks like with CONMEBOL or AFCON. Is just the variations of the similar and the same fight.
We got. It's like I'm like, we got to figure it out, Lori. It's you and I figuring this out for the rest of the.
I mean, we're certainly part of it, so not shying away from that.
No, agreed. Definitely part of that. But all right, sorry. Going back to your commentary side. So jumping into Gold Cup. Wait, what are we at? Gold Cup, Copa? Sorry, help me out. What are we doing?
No,
today?
Euros.
No, you're at Euros, but then you're jumping to something else.
Oh, then I'm jumping to Copa. Yeah, Women's Copa. Women's Copa is already happening right now. It started. I'll just give the listener some good information, because it is a wonderful tournament and people should be tuning in. July 11th, so a week ago Friday, so a week and a half now it started, and it's Ecuador is the host, and so about a week and a half in, but it's kind of, I guess you can say lopsided in a way, because there's 5 and 5. There's 2 groups, Group A and Group B, but there's 5 teams in each. So it's been kind of spread out. So who do I have tonight? Chile versus Ecuador. And Ecuador hasn't played since last Tuesday. And Chile played last, well, now I'm getting confused on this because I've had so many games. Regardless, one of the teams played last Tuesday and the other team played last Friday. So there's like, one team kind of played back-to-back, Friday and a Tuesday, and then the next one played. And there's been like over a week in between for one of the teams, and then less than that. So it's a little bit lopsided just in like how many games you're playing right in a row and then not. Regardless, this is the 3rd game for each. Ecuador is sitting in 2nd in the group A, and Chile is in number 4 out of the 5. So the other group B, you have like Brazil, Colombia, Venezuela. So it is lopsided in that, where Brazil is obviously one of the best teams that we know, so is Colombia. So you're really trying to avoid playing them in the semifinals. Brazil.
Yeah.
So, but regardless, you're going to have to play a tough team.
What would you say is like the cadence or the like for me I think every federation, every confederation has a feel and a vibe to it. Like for those who might not be used to like CONMEBOL and Copa and stuff, what would you call that vibe, and then how do you compare that to like the Euros?
What would how would I like just
Yeah.
like in terms of the play and stuff?
Yeah, in terms of the
Oh,
play, like
yeah, wonderful individual quality. Um, Wonderful individual quality, like a flair to these players that's so exciting, a real expression of like who they are and wanting to score goals and to play for their country. And I would say just the difference right now is what we've been talking about in the overarching theme, which is like resources and really committing to these players and giving them time with their national team so they can mold together as a team because the quality is there. Individual quality is just you don't get that time and time across the board with all those federations and those teams to be able to prepare for these tournaments. So, but yeah, there's a real excitement. I've been watching back some of the games preparing and stuff, and just like Ecuador played Uruguay in the first game, was the opening game of the tournament, and found themselves down, even though they had a majority of the play down 2-0. Last 20 minutes, they come back, tie the game, could have won it, and it's just like yeah, the excitement. It's what we want football to be, right? It's like the excitement. There's a joy. You're not holding back. You're disappointed. You're seeing all the emotions in the games, and yeah, it's really lovely to see.
yeah, it's that rush. I just was talking to some people on TalkSport and explaining to them how I don't have VAR in my league, so it's great. The flag doesn't go up, ball's in the back of the net. We get to cheer. We're like, let's go. But
Yeah,
like the ups and the downs, because we were talking about VAR, right? There's some potential rule changes that were being promoted there, such as like second yellow cards being reviewed by VAR and all of that, that kind of jazz. I probably wouldn't bore you guys all with that today, but all that stuff is out. But like going the ups and downs and the adrenaline rush, like holy smokes, like that penalty kick shootout, right? That we talk about. I'm not talking about the Germany France game, right? But the England, the Lionesses, like
oh, versus Sweden,
versus
that one.
that was have you seen anything like that? I've never seen anything like that before in my lifetime.
Yeah, well, what are you in terms of like this the lack of quality in those penalty kicks,
Yeah, I
or
think
just
it's a
like the
bit
game
of
in
an.
general?
Oh no, I would say. I mean, I've seen games like that. Like to your point, back to Copa, right? Like somebody coming back, and the ups and the downs. But the penalty kick side of it, like you've
Yeah.
stepped up to take a kick in a major game. Like how much? Why so much? Why so many misses?
Yeah, well, what we were hearing too, well, this was a unique situation because what we were hearing from the press conferences is that Sweden actually hadn't practiced theirs, which I found like so astonishing because that was something, regardless if you are playing with a club team and you're going into playoffs, that was something that you were drilling, knowing that could be that could be the potential of an outcome. But specifically for our national team going into major tournaments, Olympics, World Cup, my goodness, you were drilling those for months. And it was very clear, one, regardless of who was going to be on the field, right? Because of subs and stuff. But there's a lot of similar sub patterns that happen despite major changes in a game throughout tournaments. So despite who was playing on the field, we knew exactly who the five kickers were going to be, and or the first five, and then from there it was like, okay, this is what we have in place, and then it comes down to the particular day on what has their game been like, do they feel confident, and then you have wiggle room within those first five and the next five due to all those factors. But from the presser and then even afterwards, we were hearing that Sweden didn't even practice because he was like, we didn't know who's going to be on the field, and that is so astonishing to me. I'm like, well, that's the game. That's the game right there.
Yeah.
Because Blackstenius comes off
Keep.
because I guess her legs were tired, rightfully so. She'd run a ton, but then who'd they bring on? Goodness, we've had so many games. But then the person
The 18-year-old.
no, Holgram did come on as a sub that ended up missing at the end, but she was the right back. Longfist, I think it is. goodness, Kevin, our producer, can look it
It's
up.
fine. It's you on that one.
She didn't even take a penalty. So she came on the last few minutes, and you're like, okay, well, this makes sense then start to make substitutions for players that you're going to have to take a kick. Otherwise, it's like 2 more minutes and stay on the field if you can. But then she didn't even take a kick. So, yeah, the whole thing was very strange. The penalties haven't been... I've been trying to figure out exactly what the deal is with the penalties, because I have read some research and stuff as well in previous tournaments, both men and women, about how penalty kicks typically get better as this tournament goes on, whether you're more played in. There's just a different level of confidence, even with the stress and the pressure amplifying. Yeah, but it wasn't the case. And I just don't know if it was because there's been some unusual misses that started to psychologically weigh on people, because you know what's happening in the tournament. You're watching the games, you know the outcomes, that type. I mean, even Puteas in their last game on Friday against Switzerland misses that one at the end, which is very uncharacteristic of her. Yeah, Norway, Hegerberg misses 2 in the tournament. So, I mean, these are like big time players who are used to pressurized situations. So, yeah, it has been interesting. I don't know. They played a ton. Listen, the other thing is too, though, I would say, and this is just me throwing some things out there, is that the game is evolving, right? These games are freaking tough. You're playing 120 minutes. We're seeing Lucy Bronze wrap up her own leg at the end in overtime. She's performing her own. I
looked down, and the thing is, I didn't even think that was abnormal until everyone's like, she's wrapping her own leg. I'm like, oh wait, yeah, that is weird.
No, I was loving it. We were like, okay, this is it. Like, and
like
you kind of felt like the momentum shift then. But yeah, I mean, these games are tougher. It's more mentally exhausting in a way, right? Because everything is more physically demanding as the competition just continues to grow and stiffen. So I do feel like it's probably some of that too. But yeah, just wild. I mean, Jack and I were on that call, and we were like, couldn't believe our eyes. We were like, what is happening? So
I think,
but I mean, it just highlights just like how good were those quarterfinals. Like every single one. You get the late goal from Girelli, her 2 goals for Italy, and almost stoppage time, and then you get that Sweden-England game, right? Then you get even Spain, Switzerland pushing them to.
I turned on the TV. It was 0-0 at that time. I was like, "What is happening?"
I mean, and then obviously Saturday's game, France-Germany. You're like, what in the world was that too? It's just absurd. So yeah, goodness gracious.
Yeah.
We'll see.
All right, so like, and Gotham FC. I mean, talk about like that highlight. I was like, put it in the loo. Like being able to have that keeper save. I'm like everyone. Gotham, NWSL, like the whole everything of that Berger save. Ridiculously crazy. I was like, that is one of the best marketing tools. Sorry, that's like my administration brain. As soon as she made that save and you could see like the 3 snapshots of it, like, I don't know. That was one thing I want to talk to Jill and any keeper on, is like that was like defying like
so
gravity.
It's probably the best save I've ever seen. It was absurd, especially what it meant in that moment too. You're down, you've missed the penalty. There's 2 goals called back for France because of offside, like just all the different things, and to your team to almost score no goal in that minute, but like you keep yourself going. It's just like remarkable. I thought it was excellent. I mean, Berger, since coming into the league, she has consistently been the best goalkeeper in the league. She's been remarkable with her feet. Gotham playing a high line, the saves that she's made. And what I find so fascinating about Berger too, and this just speaks to a lot of goalkeepers and how mentally challenging that particular position is that before the Olympics last year, she was never a starter. She was never a starter.
That's crazy.
She was typically, like even a second or third string. And just to buy your time and put yourself in that position. And she was really good in the Olympics as well. And then a lot of people were saying too, in that third game, who do they play in the third game? Goodness, I have to think about that closely too. But it wasn't her best game, right? And then to come back and put in that performance for the quarterfinals is exceptional. I think it was Sweden who they played because they lost 4-1. But yeah,
The thing is, like, I love her story because it's like she's come over quite a bit of stuff, right? Double cancer survivor, right? Like, to your point,
Yep.
wasn't on like this, even the being called up into national team duty and all that such. But, and she's 34 years old, I think. She's like, right, where in this football world, people deem that old. So everyone don't kill me. That's just what this world deems. Like don't give up on certain, like, on just, I don't know, for me, the someone has told me this on like a scouting, they're like, after 30, like, just move on, they don't have that many years in their contracts. And like, yeah, I don't really know about that. And then you got this one, right, coming in and making the probably one of the best saves in history to go on. So
Exactly.
Does that put her in the in conversation for what is it, the best 11, or the I forgot those like international awards for like the best goalkeeper?
I think she was already in that conversation, though. In my opinion, she was already, like, she's had a very good tournament regardless. You know, I know, like I said, in that Sweden game, but they went down they got a red card early on again in that game too. So they just had some challenges up against them. But yeah, I think she's been in that conversation. I think she's been very good in this tournament, along with other goalkeepers as well. But I mean, this isn't the first time we've seen that. And so I think when you're talking about these types of saves, and also routine saves too, I mean, that she's making, then the consistency of that is absolutely has her in that conversation.
Yeah, that's a fun combo too for probably another day. But as Gotham, you can play that high line because you have a keeper who can make these astronomical saves that allow you to play more aggressive. That's not necessarily the standard.
We have to get Jill. We have to get Jill on next week so we can really tackle like all the goalkeeping in these tournaments.
Yeah, it's a different beast. It's definitely a different beast. But no, we'll get Jill on. Jill, we'll find your time. We'll get you on for sure on that kind of stuff. But like, kind of going into like wrapping up with like the Euros are crazy to say that they've already wrapped up. I actually want to ask you personally, like, at what part in a major long tournament like this do you get exhausted, right? Like, there's a part where you're like excited, it's in the beginning, multiple games, and then you like are done, you're kind of mentally checked out, but then you get like rejuvenated again.
I would say that happened in the quarterfinals. Sometimes, well, it depends, because before the quarterfinals, it was like the Spain-Switzerland, they played like a week before. So there's longer breaks between some of these games. So I think that's kind of the challenging thing. But I would say once it starts to once you've qualified to go to the knockout stages, it feels like a whole new tournament starting because the pressure's increased. Obviously there's no more games if you don't win. And regardless of like how I think of it how I felt about it when I was a player and the feelings I would have, and also now in commentating these games, it's like, okay, you're very well aware of the pressurized situation and the elevation of all of these feelings and what that means. But then there's also like managing of like, okay, well, I can't be thinking about that every second. Like I need to put in this first tackle, set the tone, then just start playing, build confidence within the game, because as we saw in that Sweden-England game, to use them as an example, there's so many things that change over the course of 90 minutes that result in that compile to add up to that result. So it is about managing the emotions, but it's also, I would say that it's the quarterfinals that start. But it's really because there's what's tomorrow? Tuesday, and Italy played, so they had Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. You have 5 days. I mean, it's a long time. It's a long time because you want to be excited, but then you also have to just be like, I need to retreat to my room, get away, not think. There's got to be like at least 2 days where you're like, try not to be in a heightened state at all to completely recover. Because I would say Thursday would have been a complete recovery day for them. Then you start to build on a Friday at least, and then Saturday, Sunday, you can increase your training load again, and then obviously Monday. Now, granted, you have to take in the full context that you've already played 4 games, right?
Yep.
It's like there's a load throughout the tournament. It's not like just one game, but it's, to me, it was, I just remember how everybody was different with how they handled that throughout a tournament. But some people would just lock themselves in their hotel room and watch shows and just try to check out.
Check out. I was going to say, like, fun things or check out, nothing soccer related.
Yeah. Emotionally, it's too much. Especially in Switzerland, for how much stimulus there is with the fans, the excitement. That's the biggest thing. That's what you have to manage. If you go outside your hotel, people are going to be bananas about it. So it's more of like you have to manage that aspect.
That's right. You probably can't leave.
Physically recover.
Yeah, you can't leave unless it's like team-related activities. So you make sure you don't get cornered, and then all of a sudden, you're supposed to be in the hotel, and hey, that's like the pros and cons of getting recognized as a woman footballer. You're like, damn it, I can't sneak out and get caught with it.
Let me sneak out the back.
MLS All-Star game happening around the corner, right? People get excited, but what is your take on All-Star games? I just came from an All-Star game. There was zero defense being played, and you could tell in the first play of the game of the WNBA All-Star game, I'm like, ain't no gonna be no defense in this game. And sure enough, there wasn't, right? I think Elle Duncan said it's like a bunch of girls who've gone to Cabo, right? Like friends at Cabo. Like that's what it felt like. They were just having fun out there. What's your take on All-Star games? Like,
I love it.
Look,
you just went to the All-Star game in WNBA, right? How fun was it?
It was fun, but you weren't watching proper basketball. I mean, Becker's is just like Gino would have hated this.
You're going in knowing that you're not watching like a full-on game, right? Especially with MLS, like I'll be having a game on Friday night, LAFC versus Portland Timbers, and the MLS All-Star game is in Austin on Wednesday. So you just know that like, okay, it's for fun. It's to honor the players that have and celebrate them that have had a really good season. And yeah, it's fun. I think it also comes at a time when typically the midway point, right? For a lot of, or always the midway point. And so I think that's kind of fun too, because you just get a little bit of a reset. You have that celebration. I think anytime too, it's fun to like, okay, for the WNBA, right? You have like the 3-point contest or the shooting contest. You have all these like other aspects where
Skills
players
challenge.
can make money, they can donate them, like all these different things, right? I think that's a fun part. Like, why not? It's unique.
Yeah.
It's to American sports typically, and it's just like another way to celebrate. But what it also does too is, I think, to the point of you being there in Indianapolis, it brings a lot of people together. So you get to have conversations. You're seeing what other people do and what are best practices, what aren't, right? What's exciting us in the sport world. And I also think there's something to be said, particularly in women's sport, especially because the WNBA has been such a driving factor in what I think is a fun conversation, but like sport versus like the fashion culture. And so you get all of that too. Like that to me is so fun. Like I love that. I just think that there's different factors that add to just being like, okay, here's an all-star game and no one's playing defense. Like, I don't care about that. Like, I'm just like, I love all the other initiatives and things that are happening around, and people are excited about it to come say hi, see friends. Like I said, the culture of fashion and sport coming together. Yeah. I mean, I'm cussing on here, but that fires me up. I'm just really, I love fashion. I'm into it. So like that stuff, give it to me. Let's go. And also I would say also one of the things that this was an all-star game, but it speaks to this because I know Meg and Sue did their live podcast a touch more at the WNBA All-Star game, but it reminds me too of the NWSL championship weekend in Kansas City this year, obviously today. But like you bring voices together, and so then it again that drives like conversation, that drives like where are we going, where are we headed in terms of like what's next for the sport, what's next for women's sport. So yeah, I think those things are needed, and it is like a break and a reset and just like a little bit of like a emotional reset, mental reset that we've been talking about, even in like how important that is in the midst of a tournament too.
Yeah, so, no, I think you're in the head because like I'm with you. The fashion, the culture, WNBA does it right? I mean, they even talk about how they still have to tap in more into merch for like that revenue and kind of telling that story. But I think you hit it with everything else because I also went to the Women in Sports and Events wise, right? And there was like over 300, 400 people there, and they had 8 WNBA presidents all talking. Some rookies like from the Valkyries who are crushing it, but just not just off the field, but on the field as well, right? And just to hear those conversations, it was kind of like. I mean, yeah, you're hanging out with friends and watching, Asia and Kelsey skip down the line on the foul, right? Like, I don't know if you saw it, but they just ended up, like, that was great. But, I think it's everything outside of the game. So I'll give you that. I'm going to use your word if you're just only focusing on what's happening on the court, you lost the point of an all-star game. Yeah, because I was always curious on that, like all-star games. And then last question on an all-star game. would you rather it be internally in the league, or would you rather it be your best team versus X, right? So last year's WNBA, it was like their best team versus Team USA going to the Olympics, right? But we've had historically in MLS, we've played against another team, right? I'm blanking right now on who the other team was last. Maybe 2 years ago in DC, we played against another team, EPL team coming in, a Premier League team coming in. But what would you prefer? See them play against each other, or just your best 11 play against somebody else?
I think the best 11 play against somebody else.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, I mean, like, last year's kind of tough. Well, I don't actually know if it's tough because I didn't read anything about it, so this is me. I would imagine that was an interesting one, just in the fact that like you're a WNBA All-Star playing like the Olympic team, right? Is that how it went?
That's how it went, which was made it a little contentious last year.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah,
didn't make it, so I was like,
yeah. But I think that's kind of like unusual, just in the sense that that was like a specific kind of like situation going to the Olympics. But I think I like when All-Stars play another team, because listen, if you're playing like a Premier League team, that's fun. That's drawing more fans that maybe are already fans of the Premier League, and then the hope is that you're constantly driving and getting people excited about Major League Soccer and NWSL, Super League, right? Whatever it is, WNBA, all of these things. The whole point is to drive attention and get people excited about the league and the teams.
Yeah, no, I mean, we talked about, right, Liga MX Stars. It was Arsenal, that's what it was. 2023, it was Arsenal FC that they played, and they came out with like those hot, like, green jerseys and stuff. It kind of threw us, but Arsenal comes out with a different different kit every week. I think they just dropped their their Asian tour kit the other day. So no, cool. Well, I mean, what's next on tap for you? I know you mentioned it briefly. You're finishing the Euros, Copa. Anything else on tap? Would you get a break? Do you get a break from all the commentary?
Yeah, we'll have a break for a bit, just because NWSL starts up a week from Friday as well. But, I mean, most pertinent is we have these Copa games and also semifinals. I mean, huge semifinals, England versus Italy on Tuesday, tomorrow, and then, which I think when this is out, we already know the outcomes of those things. So, and then the second one is Spain versus Germany. So, and then the finals on Sunday. So huge games coming up, which is super exciting. It's been an incredible tournament. That's the most thing. And then, right back into NWSL after this long break that we've taken, 5 weeks, I think, to be exact. So,
you get a break? Like right now,
I
don't care about anybody else.
After the season,
you get a break.
I get intermittent breaks throughout. I make sure that I take them, even if there's just a few days here and there or stuff that I'm doing.
Yeah.
Okay. But a lengthy break won't be till after the season, and I'll take some sort of trip.
All right. Yeah. Like Boxing Day and Christmas, that's when you're going to take your break.
Yeah, actually before then, but yes, close enough.
I know. I was like, that's the one holiday that is still protected in the United States soccer-wise. Nobody plays during Christmas. Let's protect that window, shall we? No, but Lori, thanks for jumping on. I know we're bouncing around. We get to live in hotel rooms, so people get to see our place and our space. Actually, at first, I thought that board behind you was like X's and O's and like tactic plays, and that you and you and Jackie just went crazy and started writing on the wall.
That would be amazing.
But now it's just art, so
that wouldn't be unusual. But yes, it is just art.
That's why my brain went there first. We interviewed Jackie, and I'm like, I wouldn't be surprised if they started doing tactics on the wall. But all right, everyone, catch Lori as she breaks down some of the best games in the world, to be quite honest, on the women's side of it for sure. And then she starts tapping into what I think is also an undiscovered side with CONMEBOL. I know I'm looking there for players right now. And just make sure you keep watching. You find us on YouTube and all the other places. Some really cool changes going on with the podcast as well. Look forward to delivering more of that to you guys. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to follow us on the Soccer Podcast USA as we continue to bring you big names and bold opinions. That's it for our show. See you later.